Hello and welcome to a special edition episode of the Father and Son Pastime podcast. I'm Patrick.
A deadline issue of the podcast. Hi, I'm Kevin.
That's my dad. Dad, we have taken off today on August 1st, the MLB trade deadline day of 2023. Off for you for the past, year and a half or so of the retirement. I actually took off. It is a national holiday because the past 2 years have been really exciting.
Big trades.
Now that it's 7 p.m. East Coast time, Dad, I did not feel that same 2021 or 2022 energy from this year's deadline. Yes, some future Hall of Famers of Verlander and Scherzer were moved, but for me, there wasn't any franchise-altering moves.
Blockbusters.
Yeah, I think that's a good word for it. Tell me more. Tell me what your thoughts were.
I kept looking for the 5-for-3 deals, the 3-for-2 deals, the packages, three-way trades.
Oh, yeah.
You never got any of that today. And in the past you did. The teams worked together to really build up a team. Last year was Soto. And that was huge, and then everything took a little back seat, but that was a blockbuster, and people walked away from that going, wow, that changes the whole chemistry and outlook of the team. This year there were so many minor deals, a player going for a minor league, double-A player, all that. It wasn't sexy enough, so it seemed to be more minor deals, past 2 days than anything major.
I'm wearing my Mets shirt, Dad. I have pretty much a T-shirt for every MLB team because, this will be at Goodwill soon, just like their whole team was. No, I like this shirt. This is Mike Piazza. But unless it's probably like a Pete Alonso shirt, it could no longer be in your possession. A lot of those big-name pieces, big personalities are out of New York into different teams. We'll kind of get into winners and losers. Maybe we'll give a few teams a grade. I'm kind of curious. I mean, the Mets, in a way, they didn't make one franchise-altering move, but their whole trading process was, this year didn't work. It's also not going to set us up for next year either. So in a way, it's like almost feels like a rebuild. So do you want to start in the East? Is that easier?
Sure.
NL East, let's do that.
Anywhere you want to go.
We never start in the NL, and I'm sure that's the AL East Coast bias around here, being in Baltimore. But let's just lead off with the Mets, because they made, I don't know if this is an official number, but I feel like they made the most moves this trade deadline. Completely looks like a different team. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, can you imagine 2 to 3 weeks ago, the meetings they had, and the very tough discussions they had to say, who are we going to get rid of? Because we're definitely going to be sellers. To look at all the work that went into the landing the superstars, to have a World Series run, to say, and they had to take the whole thing apart. Can you imagine those meetings and how tense they were?
I mean, it's almost like you are helping load up your company's truck, and then the company says, all right, you're fired. Hey, help us dissolve, become solvent, and then, hey, clear out your desk too.
Yeah, the big-name guys went. There's not much left, talent-wise. The starting rotation is bleak. They're going to lose 85 games.
I think they traded 6 total people. Scherzer, Verlander, Pham, Canna, Robertson, and Leone. They could have traded more, honestly.
Yeah.
But I guess someone has to play. Their infield was pretty much untouched. Their outfield obviously got hit, and obviously the big Scherzer and Verlander names. It's panic mode for the Met fans, at least. Your owner was big and sexy, and oh my God, getting high fives in the street of New York for doing everything he's done in the past 2 years for the Mets. And it didn't work. I don't know how much we really want to dive into this, Dad, but this, and obviously the Padres, who are having a middling successful season, the Yankees, Red Sox, some really big payrolls. Mid-market teams like the Reds or the Orioles, the Diamondbacks are going to point to this and say, hey, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Our method, we might get a playoff spot. One of those 3 teams, maybe if not more, will get a playoff spot. And you have to think that, is this the end of these massive team salaries?
It's so funny. the common denominator. You watch, the Orioles and the Reds. They're having fun, and they're young and they're talented. They're athletic. The Mets were old, probably very into themselves, not so much having fun. Give me the ball, I'll pitch my 6 innings, and then I'll take a limousine home.
Yeah.
You can tell the teams that are having a good time, they're having a ball, and I think there's the Padres weren't having any fun, the Mets weren't having any fun, the Yankees weren't having any fun. I think it's a big part of it.
Yeah. I don't think, and again, everything can change in the minors and over the offseason or something like that. But I don't think anything that the Mets got back would make for 2024 Met. Pretty much everything was 2025, 2026.
Yeah.
The package for Verlander, I guess, was the best in terms of talent. They got the top Astros prospect. However, not even in the top 100 in baseball. This is obviously a loss. This is the acceptance of we failed. The whole year was a failure. What would you give this deadline any grade? Because they made moves, they didn't stand pat. I mean, is there any solace in saying let's wave the white flag and get what we can for these guys?
I think they were directed from above to shed some payroll because the Mets fans aren't going to come see this product.
Yeah.
So they're saying, hey, we're not going to make payroll. So you run any company, and if your labor's so high, you get rid of some labor. So I think it's an economical situation. New York is not a good place to be right now as far as baseball. And I'm thinking, they're going to reevaluate things in the offseason, and I think they'll tear it down and build from anew. I think it'd be much, from administration on down, it'll be changes.
It's almost like you have an F going into the final, and even if you got an A on the final of you still fail the class.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they got, but it's still a fail every year.
Yeah, and they got rid of so many pieces getting to this championship team that their farm system's not in great shape either.
Yeah.
So they're in trouble.
I know it makes sense to look at the best team in the division and probably World Series favorites, but I want to shift to, I think, the team that made the best moves, which is the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, great moves.
Getting Jake Berger, I probably is going to go down as the underrated get of the trade deadline. Massive team control. Strikes out a lot, sure, but young and hits a lot of homers and plays third base. They get Josh Bell, who could be a bopper. Again, not the best. But, I mean, the team lacked offense. They had pitching. And guess what? They traded. And Segura obviously ends up being completely released. But they get their biggest need, which is more potent offense in that lineup.
And don't forget the pieces in the bullpen is going to come back
Sure.
to help them. Robertson, the last two years especially, has been a godsend, and he was really holding the fort down at the Mets. Unfortunately, their closer got hurt in preseason, but Jorge Lopez was very good last year. Robertson was having a great year. Those are two big pieces, and you mentioned the two guys on the offensive, the two pitchers they added. I mean, you got to give the GM credit. Miami, she did a great job.
Yeah.
So good for her.
We can move around the Braves. I mean, I would give the Marlins an A, by the way, openly. They had the needs. They addressed it. Bada bing, bada boom. And they also brought in Ryan Weathers for Garrett Cooper after he's not really needed on the team anymore. And I have high aspirations. He's still a young, phenomenal pitcher, although his numbers don't back all that stuff up. So they improve even at their pitching depth. The Braves were probably one of the few teams at this deadline that truly didn't need to improve. You're the best team in baseball.
Yeah.
You're the World Series
They're
favorites. They're hot.
Yeah.
They could have added like a Jack Flaherty or a Jordan Montgomery, some sort of starting pitching. They added Brad Hand at the actual deadline. Dad, thoughts on the Braves?
I thought early on when they got Pierce Johnson,
Yeah, sure. They bumping out the bullpen.
Nicky Lopez, a little infielder. Mm-hmm. I think what they did, they said, hey, we need to improve the bench. We need to improve the bullpen. Let's get some pieces. But the starting cast is there. So I'm thinking, don't mess with that. Add some pieces on the periphery. They're in the playoffs. So I'm thinking they did a nice job. Didn't upset anybody. Didn't trade away any pieces. I thought the Braves did a nice job. Maybe give them a B, B+, something like that.
Sure. it's the I mean, it's the opposite of the Mets. You already have an A going to the final. You have to get like a 10 on the final.
You just need to show up.
Right. You just need to put your name on the SAT. And this is a team that, I mean, pending any craziness, this probably will be your deadline for the next couple of years. Hey, let's add to replace injuries, shore up some depth, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Put a Band-Aid on a wound.
Yeah. I mean, they're just so good that you don't need to give them a grade. It doesn't matter what grade you give them, they're still going to be in the playoffs, and that's sort of the point of the deadline, is to make your team good enough to make the playoffs and withstand some of those 3/4 game sets in a row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Phillies, Dad. Phillies were the team, we know the Mets and the Nationals are, not in the playoffs. We know the Braves are in the playoffs. Marlins and the Phillies is really where I think a lot of people, or if you're an NL East fan, look to see what they did. Obviously, they added Michael Lorenzen. I think they DFA'd or released Josh Harrison earlier today as well. They didn't do as many moves or anything splashy like Marlins. So thoughts on the Phillies deadline?
Their big need is defensive replacement.
Any position.
When you got Schwarber in left field who can't laterally move well, you got Harper as your first baseman. You have some holes throughout the lineup. Yeah, they can hit, but not to add to the bullpen, which has always been a sore spot for the Phillies over the years. Yeah, they can score runs, but also they give up a lot of runs. But just to make one move, man, it seemed pretty bad. I thought for sure to be much more active, because right now the Marlins are above them, is moving up the standings.
It could be a money thing, where they already have such a payroll that they can't add on. I mean, I watched last episodes. I thought Josh Bell could be available, and I called the wrong NL East team needing a first baseman. I thought they could have added more. Their bullpen is not what it was, last year and how dominant it was. That could have definitely been shored up some. That's where I thought Brad Hand. So again, I'm picking the right division, just not the right team.
But then all the other left-handed relievers were out there, and no one picked them up. Like 4 or 5 just didn't get picked up.
I mean, I'm going to go with like a C+ for the Phillies.
You're kind.
I think. C+, whatever. I'm not really the biggest fan of minuses. What would you give them?
I would go maybe a C or C-.
Okay.
Because they had the opportunity, and I'm thinking with the Phillies, again, being a big market team, I think they have some flexibility there. And again, they didn't make any big trades that take somebody off their roster and build from there. They could have been much more aggressive.
And then they they trade Bailey Falter, used to be a really good, prospect, had potential, didn't really pan out, and they traded him for some utility infielder for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Watch him go be a stud in Pittsburgh.
He has an opportunity.
He certainly will immediately start.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd land more in a C, because that Falter trade I thought was bad.
Mm-hmm.
The Nats dad made one trade, and everyone knew what it was going to be. I thought they could have and should have traded more.
Oh yeah, you got to sell.
You do have to sell. The team is roughly the same. You lose Candelario, so you lose an offensive piece. It's not going to hurt them in the long run, trading this team. They're still going to be 5th in the division.
Yeah, they had some relief pitchers that could have sent. C.J. Edwards was out there.
Yeah.
He could have helped the team. There are so many pieces that could have went, and they chose not to.
I don't like this deadline for the Nats. Rizzo, I think, talks a big game, says he has 8 suitors for Candelario. And again, we'll get into the Cubs soon, I guess, since we're going to stay in the NL. That's not a good return. So it's hard for me to believe that was the best offer out there for really the only,
the number one offensive
offensive thing. Josh Bell kind of threw a wrinkle into people's plans. But yeah, the flexible first base, third base, DH.
Switch
hitter, exactly. Switch fielder, first base, third base.
Yeah.
Not even close opposite positions. Very unique in their own rights. I would go D with the Nats. I'll go A Marlins, B for the Braves, C for the Phillies, and just because I have no idea what to say about the Mets, I'm going to give them an F, because it's just accepting defeat and waving the white flag.
In the biggest market in baseball.
With the biggest payroll in baseball.
Yeah.
Dad,
Something went wrong.
I could have been from Diaz's injury onward. I mean, nothing went right after that.
Correct. And they never adjusted.
Dad, let's go to the NL Central. We have another team tearing things down, not as extensively as the Mets, but I do want to start with the Cardinals. I know you're itching to talk about the Cubs, as all our 2 subscribers are the Cub fans. We appreciate.
They heard from
had to do another shot from last episode.
Lots of you're gonna get so much mail from Chicagoland.
People still send mail. I mean, let's do that.
Emails, texts.
Cardinals are pretty transparent in their process that they're going to trade DeYoung, the 3 pitchers that were available, as well, and then they would listen to offers on their outfielders. No young player goes. DeYoung goes to Toronto to obviously, sort of be the fill-in for Bo Bichette's injury for however long. They didn't need DeYoung anymore, and then they completely cut down their starting pitching. And they get rid of Chris Stratton as well. Dad, thoughts on the Cardinals' acceptance of a failure of a year?
It's funny. They had high hopes going into this year. Everyone had them as favorites to win the Central, a weak Central Division. When things went bad in April or May, and they had the manager fighting with one of the outfielders, and then all of a sudden, some injuries happened. They yanked Contreras out of the catching position. You could see it unraveling within the first 60 days, and then all of a sudden it just never righted. And they had some really good players, but you could tell in June it's not their year. And all of a sudden they had to make a decision. They had rumors about the big guys leaving as well. Again, just a bad cast of characters. The manager doesn't help anything. They're going to have a huge change in the offseason. But I think they had I think they had more people off the Cardinals than any other team, to be quite honest. Maybe the Mets were in there somewhere.
Mets got rid of more. Cardinals got rid of 5.
5, okay.
Flaherty, Montgomery, Hicks, Stratton, DeYoung.
Yeah, some big pieces of the club.
Big pieces.
Yeah, but they're going to, unfortunately, I think they'll end up in last place because I think a team will just wave the white flag.
Yeah. It's hard to stay motivated when you had not just playoff expectations, I think. I mean, if you're Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, maybe Nootbaar too. I mean, he's coming off a World Baseball Classic
they got
championship.
Some great athletes. Carlson. Yeah.
I was talking to you about this upstairs. By the way, our studio now has full air conditioning. It is fixed.
He's happier.
Yes, we're not sweating live on camera. That I think the Cardinals could rebuild successfully over the offseason and compete next year. So I know you, as a Cubs fan, you're a little biased, and you also hope they don't. But there's a lot of starting pitching available on the free agent class.
They have the money.
They certainly will have the money. Wainwright will hopefully retire. There's a lot of money coming off the books there, too. We'll see, because obviously I think the Reds are going to be everyone's darling for this division for a couple years. Who knows what the Cubs will do with, again, they have a lot of money. Pirates, hopefully if O'Neal Cruz gets back healthy, they're young and fun too. Brewers are always got great pitching. So the NL Central has a chance next year to be really competitive. Not this year, obviously. Cardinals, I have to feel like I have to be consistent. I can't remember any good players coming back in any of those trades.
They're trying to build up the farm system again.
Yeah, so I guess, that's kind of
the Orioles gave some nice things for Flaherty.
Yeah, but they have
I know, but I'm just saying they're trying to build the farm system again.
I suppose I will have to go ahead and just say F, because I have to be consistent with what I said about the Mets. Dad, do you want to talk about the Cubs? Do you want to save them for last of the Central?
We can talk about it. They got a D. They had an 8-game winning streak. They had a lot of momentum.
They could have sold.
Yes. Jed Hoyer changed his mind somewhere during that 8-game winning streak that they were going to buy. Well, he put one foot into the ocean, not both feet into the ocean. And as he tested the waters, he said, well, maybe, that guy over there has a boogie board. Maybe I'll think about that. He made one move. Yeah. and he could have done so much more today. And we need to find out why things didn't get completed. But at the same time, they had so many holes to really patch. They need relief pitching. They need some bench. They could use probably another outfielder who's defensively minded. They didn't do any of the moves everyone thought they were going to make. Their bullpen is still not good. They just didn't complete the job. They started the job, didn't complete it. Disappointing.
They still have 3 catchers.
Yeah.
Obviously, last podcast I talked about how I think the Cubs should sell, and they're going to lose 3 straight. They have lost 2 straight. They won, I think, on our podcast day, and then they lost the past 2 days. Could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure.
No, you're correct.
They lost 2.
They almost won last night.
Ooh, I still lost. This whole division, openly, feels like they are placating to their fan bases, saying we're trying. That's just what it felt like. No one in this division feels like I am making, hey, we have a visitor in studio. It's our lovely baseball dog.
Hi, sweetheart. Hi, sweetheart.
No one in this division feels like they can win, in my opinion, any series of the playoffs. I think it's a win if I think one team comes out of the Central and gets swept in the division series. No one made any moves in this division that says, hey, we're a World Series contender. We want to be a World Series contender. We want people to fear us. Adding Candelario, and they added somebody else, right? Like a
Kuas.
Right, a relief arm from the Royals. And then they released Mancini, basically. This doesn't say anything other than, look at us, Cubs fans. We're trying. We're not selling the team. I don't know if it's we're trying. It's we're not selling the team. So I'm with you with the D. I think they should have sold. Because again, same argument for the Cubs. I would have said for the Cubs and the Cardinals, they could compete next year and get back into competitive nature. If they sold, they just had to be bad for 2 months.
But it's weird. I mean, Bellinger and Stroman were the big pieces. You just wondered what would they get in return, because everybody's return for the big players in the last couple of days have been nothing.
Well, maybe that's why the Cubs and Hoyer decided to stay competitive, because they didn't. I'm sure they had conversations, and I'm sure they had offers
for a long time
pre their winning streak.
Yeah,
and they kept saying no. We think he's better than that. And teams. Again, maybe it's an issue that no team this deadline was willing to do a franchise-altering decision. Yeah. The Padres are out. Astros obviously had no real... I mean, they gave up a lot. If we look at... We'll get to the AL West. They gave up some of their best prospects. The Astros want to do a
package deal of Bellinger and Stroman.
Right. And the Cubs probably said you don't have enough top talent, which is fair, because they have given that up year after year. And the people that have all the talent... like the Orioles, the Reds, or the Diamondbacks, are like, we'll keep our youth, thank you.
Yeah.
So
keep the core.
And again, it's a different vibe and culture with these new teams as buyers. I mean, I can't remember a Cardinals selling.
No, not for a long time.
No one. I look at our old podcast. If you talk to me in March or April, the Mets selling, no way. Yeah. I think I chose the Braves and the Mets and Phillies all making the playoffs this year. But just what a waste. I can totally talk more about the Cubs. I think I slammed you guys enough last podcast.
He loves Chicago.
I think, obviously there's only 3 spots with 1, 2, 3. You're not going to be 4th or 5th. I just don't see the Cubs making the playoffs. I don't think you didn't do anything to convince me that you believe you can make the playoffs. They had
a golden opportunity, and they didn't come through.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the Brewers?
I do. Okay. I would like to talk about the Brewers because I think they made the most moves in this division to say at least, they made the most moves.
They improved better, more than any other team in the Central.
Sure. Yes. Great way to say it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you with that.
They added Andrew Chafin, Mark Canha, Carlos Santana, and I guess welcomed home Jace Peterson, although I don't think it's a very minor move,
right?
Getting from Oakland. But they have lacked offense. That has been a big thing in the Brewers organization this year. Everyone knows them for good starting pitching, a pretty solid bullpen. So they added people like Santana and Canha that can hit. Santana can still play a pretty good first base defense. I don't know if any of those guys, push them from an 88 win team to like a 98 win team or something like that. But I was still impressed with their moves. I don't think they had to give up a whole hell of a lot. But yeah, I mean, Chafin was a steal. They gave up like a guy I've never heard of on their team, Strzelecki. We kept saying that name upstairs because that's a hard name to say.
I think they just D-backs want to get rid of his salary.
I guess.
But I think the key of all those three is Santana. He has playoff experience.
Sure.
He's a veteran. It's, pretty young team with the Brewers. He's going to steady the ship and give them, he'll be in the lineup every day, either first base or DH. He's the big addition.
Yeah.
My opinion.
I'll give Brewers a B+. I don't know if anyone has earned an A in this division, but Brewers did enough by comparison. It's almost like when the average grade on a test is like a 72 with a curve, and you got a 76, and you're like, all right,
yeah,
this feels pretty good to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like the Brewers. We'll see. State of the end. We're gonna do our predictions for the playoffs, sort of post. It's a lot of P's. Post trade deadline. But for me, obviously, it's going to be the Brewers or the Reds coming out of the Central. I really don't think one team comes out. Dad, do you want to move to the Reds? The quiet, you can't even hear a pin drop when we talk about the Cincinnati Reds. Sam Moll coming over from the Oakland Athletics.
For nothing.
That's it.
You know what I think happened with Cincinnati? Cincinnati never is a big player in the the deadline, but I think they don't want to upset their young players.
Sure.
So they got it. It's like the Orioles. They have a nice cohesive bunch. They don't want to do too much to tinker with that. So I'm thinking they stayed pat for the most part, not to upset them and have the young players get confidence. I think Cincinnati's still a very talented team. I think they're going to make it interesting. End of September. I'm thinking they fight for a wild card.
Yeah.
I like their team, and when I saw them play the Orioles, it was pretty impressive, their team chemistry and their speed.
Yeah.
So they're on their way up.
They're a young upstart team. I mean, really what you're going to pick, again, sorry Cubs fans, you're going to pick a balanced Brewers team that bolster their offense, that has
great pitching,
undoubtedly the best pitching in the NL Central. The Reds did not improve their starting pitching whatsoever, which is what they should have done.
They had opportunity too.
And they have a ton of offense. They have a ton of youth. They got a ton of speed. They got a ton of fun. So they do. So you're sort of wagering those two against each other.
Yeah.
A fun young Reds team lacking any and all experience outside Joey Votto, and then a balanced Brewers team. So it really is, do you bet on the risk or do you bet on the balance?
I go balance. And Brewers have been a playoff team for a while. They got that experience.
But they're not going far in those playoffs.
No.
We'll close with the Pirates. The Pirates did do some moves. Obviously, we talked about Santana going interdivision. They got rid of Austin Hedges. And they have Andy Rodriguez, and they have some youth coming up. I'm glad they didn't trade Joe McCutcheon. Oh, sorry, I didn't give a grade to the Reds. I still feel like a D.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that impressive.
They could have done more.
Yeah. F Cardinals, D Cubs, D Reds, B+ Brewers, and we're going to get to the Pirates. They got Bailey Falter in that very weird last-second trade for sort of like their second baseman utility man, Rodolfo Castro. I like that. They kept Bednar, so half the law firm is still there, everybody. So I have to be a little happy about that.
They traded Rich Hill.
I'm very happy they traded Rich Hill and G-Man Choi. I had them going as a package, just to the wrong destination. That seems to be a theme on this podcast from me, which is good. I mean, if the net of the starting rotation is you get rid of Rich Hill and you bring in a young Bailey Falter, I think that's a win, actually. Santana is a loss. So obviously it's a worse team, but they have some youth, and it's either going to click with Henry Davis and Andy Rodriguez, being mentored by people like Brian Reynolds and Andrew McCutcheon, or it's just going to be just an absolute shit show the rest of the year in Pittsburgh. I don't know which way it's going to go openly. The Falter trade saves them C- for me.
You know what? They started off so well, and then they had a bad downturn, and then all of a sudden they slid down in the
Yeah.
standings. Then all of a sudden they had to make a decision. They're still playing for the future.
Yeah.
They had a good draft this year. I'm just thinking they're waiting for these guys to come along and all that. They think they'll be the Reds of 2024,
Maybe.
2025. It's it's a tough time. They don't got great support, but I think the youth is coming around. And again, the injuries have kind of put them a step back. But again, they'll be in the high draft choice and everything else. They keep building, building, building. So we'll see. But yeah, I think they got rid of some pieces to get some of the AAA guys up to the Pirates and give them a chance.
You mentioned fight, like what they're fighting for, what they're playing for. There'll be two races in the NL Central for the next 2 months. Who wins first? And I really do think that is it. Who's going to the playoffs and who gets last. Cardinals have no motivation and really no starting pitching. The Pirates don't have a lot of talent. The Cardinals have 100% better talent, more talent than the Pittsburgh Pirates. But the Pirates, again, kind of have a fun chemistry. It could be, I doubt it is at this point because he's having such a good year, but it could be McCutcheon's last year. Mm-hmm. There is some reason to play and have fun. The Cardinals feel very dead.
Everybody's turning their back.
I lean Pirates getting fourth. Despite a lack of talent.
And the Pirates are, athletic. They got some pieces that they've gotten through the draft, and they have some folks that are exciting players. So yeah, I'm thinking they kept their pitching, and I think that is a key component. So they may end up winning 75 games, which would be great for them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That surprisingly, unlike the last couple of deadlines, the NL West was pretty quiet. It was pretty quiet on the Western front.
Because San Diego didn't do much.
Yeah, I'm going to start first with the Dodgers. The Dodgers have improved around the margins.
Yes.
You add Ahmed Rosario, Kike Hernandez, Yarborough, Lance Lynn, Joe Kelly. Good additions. No superstars.
Good veteran presence, though.
Good veteran presence. Playoff experience.
Yeah.
I like all that. I think every single one of them has playoff experience, even Yarborough back in Tampa Bay days of 2020. So I think it is good. There isn't the Max Scherzer, Trey Turner additions that we've seen them make. They did try to add Eduardo Rodriguez late and failed. That, I don't know why Detroit and LA are talking about the trade when they have a no-trade clause. Hope, I guess. I think they could have done more, but it was successful. Your thoughts?
I'm thinking they filled in the holes that they had people playing out of position. What they made with the two infielder / outfielders and all that added to their flexibility of their lineup, and then to get a starter and a reliever, again, depth pieces. Dodgers are doing well. These are nice reinforcements. To go in the last 2 months, I think Lance Lynn might, get his second wind and become the pitcher he was a couple years ago. Joe Kelly's always been great. He didn't have great success with the White Sox, but I'm thinking those additions will help the team chemistry going to the playoffs.
Dodgers are very similar to the Braves, where they were a playoff team before the deadline, and obviously they just solidified that after the deadline. I think the Braves are a little bit more complete, which is probably why they did less, and the Dodgers did more trades. I'm still going to give them a B, which is the same grade I believe I gave the Braves. And they still have multiple MVPs on their team, so really anything can happen. I think everybody wants a Braves, Dodgers, NLCS. I really think that is so likely at this point. It feels boring at the same time, but those two are far and away the best two teams in the NL.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the division crown.
Yeah, and it should be. I mean, back in the days, pre all this, expanded playoffs, it was, who is the best team in the AL, best team in the NL, let's play for the pennant type of thing.
Dodgers healthy are a good team.
Dodgers healthy, yeah, a scary team.
Yeah.
Scary team. They could, I know Walker Buehler keeps talking about that. He's trying to come back for the playoffs, which would equal them probably to the Braves. Let's talk Padres, just because they're next on my list. They were Cubs-esque going into this deadline. Should they sell? They were getting calls on their impending free agents. They added Barlow late. I mean, they did all their moves really late. They added Garrett Cooper in exchange for Ryan Weathers because Cronenworth's not having a great year at first. That's sort of like a net thing to me. Dad, am I missing any other San Diego
Rich Hill
trades?
and Choi.
Oh, Rich Hill and Choi. Choi is more of a platoon guy with Cooper, probably. Maybe that's probably honestly it. And then Rich Hill, innings eater type of thing.
And he's a different type of pitcher. And talking about experience, maybe he can be a great positive influence in that clubhouse and get them to play together a little better. I think San Diego's too little, too late.
C is my grade.
Yeah. They don't have enough.
It's chemistry. It's Cardinals.
I agree. I think in the offseason will be a very interesting offseason for the Padres.
Pre the trade deadline, we were not on the same page. Post trade deadline, we have clarity, as hopefully you all at home do as well. I think the Giants did no moves. No, they added Pollock, which is nothing because he should be DFA'd.
Yeah, I mean,
there's nothing else, right?
I agree. Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, they had opportunity to improve their team. And for some reason, San Francisco is not big at the trade deadline. Yet another example of kind of missing an opportunity. They're in the thick of things, but right now, I don't think they did anything to improve themselves. So yeah, it's.
I mean,
I don't know.
If you don't do anything to improve yourself, you got
yourself to blame.
I'll take an F.
Yeah.
Your job is to get yourself to be a World Series contender. You failed to do that, so F, failure.
Yeah.
Diamondbacks. Look, because we didn't. Sorry, Giants fans. Do more, and we'll talk more about you.
Yeah.
Diamondbacks did like a retooling. They got rid of Chafin, which was a little shocking. I thought they might be sellers at first.
Yeah.
They bring in Tommy Pham late. They didn't change. They got Sewald too. They didn't do anything with their starting pitching, which was the biggest need because it's Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, and then nobody.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the Diamondbacks?
Sewald, I think, huge addition. Chafin was an okay closer. I think that fortifies their back end of the bullpen. But again, it could have done more. They have an exciting team, but they could have added some pieces. Yet another example of people not pulling the strings at the very end to make changes that can benefit their team. Pham was really a last-minute addition. I guess he can be, outfielder, left fielder, something like that. But again, they have an opportunity to move up in the wild card race. They could have done more.
Yeah. Speaking of could have done more, the Colorado Rockies. Now, the fact that they did anything at all means they do have a brain. They're not actually brain dead out there in Denver. They're not high all the time. They did move some pieces. They kept some others that didn't really make sense. I think they should have traded Profar, Daniel Bard, and Brent Suter. They found a few homes for some other people, which is great. Crone's gone. Gruchik is gone.
Yeah.
A couple of their, you mentioned Pierce Johnson earlier. Mm-hmm. A couple of their relievers are gone. I think they could have done more. They probably got back some Gatorade buckets. I really didn't look at. It's really hard for me to care about the Rockies.
Chris Bryant's hurt again?
He's not really hurt. He just doesn't want to play. I'm just going to go C, as in see you later, because I don't care about the Rockies. I will never pick you to make the playoffs, ever.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
Yes. That is it for the NL, Dad. Do you have any more thoughts about the Rockies or any other team?
No, I just think that, again, there's so many teams that missed a golden opportunity. I think hats off to Miami.
Yeah.
I
think it was my highest grade I gave out.
Yeah, they, I think, impressed me. I think they're in the top 3, of teams that really got aggressive. They want to be in the playoffs. I think with these moves, they may be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think
scary team.
I think the Brewers helped themselves. Other than that, everyone gets a pretty mediocre grade. Those are the only ones that really stood out.
Let's go predictions. I like to do classic East Central. Actually, no. Let's just say 6 people because it's probably easier.
Sure.
With the West, with the NL, it's probably easier. But
okay.
Dad, who are your 6 playoff teams coming out of the NL?
There's going to be a surprise for you.
There's got to be. There's 3 wildcard teams.
Braves.
Marlins.
Brewers. Dodgers. D-backs. Reds.
So you do have two coming out.
of the Central.
Okay. I'm thinking of my last 6 teams. So I have the Braves, Brewers, Dodgers. Really simple. East, Central, West there. Marlins, Phillies, 2 wild card teams.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think the Phillies push enough and they hit enough, etc., etc.
Okay.
I am between the last 3, and it's Reds, Diamondbacks, or Giants. Giants didn't do anything. They have talent. They've proven themselves to be at this position. I don't think 2 people are coming out of the Central, so it's hard for me to pick the Reds. The Diamondbacks will not go far in the playoffs with only Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. They're literally an injury away from one of those 2 people to be completely irrelevant. I will take... I don't think the Padres are coming back, obviously.
No.
I'm going to do the non-fun thing and take the Giants.
Okay.
With that said, the Giants probably the worst team, so they play the Brewers, right? They would play the third.
No, it's 2 wild cards, and then they move on.
Marlins, Phillies would be a 4-5 seed. They would play each other.
Right.
And then the 6th seed and the 3rd seed, which would be the Brewers, or
Okay.
whoever comes out of the Central,
Okay.
playing the Giants. So Brewers, Giants, Marlins, Phillies, Braves, and Dodgers get a bye. I think Braves will have a better record than the Dodgers, so they'll be the number 1 seed. Dodgers are 2. I like the Brewers beating the Giants. I like the Marlins beating the Phillies. I know what I said.
No, I think
Yeah.
the Marlins, if they get some momentum going and get some 8 to 10 game winning streaks like other teams, I think they're well on their way.
I still think no matter who gets the who faces the Braves and the Dodgers in the DS, it's still Braves Dodgers.
Yeah.
As of this second on August 1st, I have the Braves going to the World Series. I know they didn't do much at the deadline, but they didn't have to.
They've been hot
If
all
Walker
year.
Buehler comes back, I'll probably change my mind, but I got Braves.
I'm with you.
Let's talk AL, the American League, Dad.
Sure.
Sounds good. We have some good thoughts, in my opinion. I'm gonna applaud us. We talk a lot. We're going for 45 minutes, and we've only talked about the NL. Dad, let's go to the AL. Let's talk the East, and then we'll talk generics first.
Sure.
Up until the last 15 or 20 minutes or whatever, I thought the AL East was just going to go quietly into the night.
Some did.
And some did. And I know that the NL West, like I said, all quiet on the Western Front. I think the quietest division, the saddest division, in a way, was the AL East.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hit a few trades because I'm going to feel like wrapping these up because not a lot of trades happen. We could really kind of fly through the AL East. The Orioles added Jack Flaherty late. Huge ad. Was risky. They did not give up any major prospects for him. They didn't move their current team. I think that's extremely helpful. I think the Orioles are a playoff team. They added a playoff starter, whether he's a Game 1 or Game 2 guy. We'll see how he does in Baltimore these next 2 months.
Be a good leader with the other young starting pitching, too.
Sure. I think the Orioles could have given more and brought in one of those Cardinal outfielders. That could have been really fun. That would have probably been the trade of the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Still a good trade. That's really all they did. Red Sox, horrible. Just absolutely horrible. Traded Kike, 2 weeks ago, and they brought in a technically AAA infielder of Luis Urias. Awful. Openly giving them an F. They won't make the playoffs. Yankees, I think, totally did a save-face move. Instead of selling, they brought in a reliever that has no control past this year, that is a free agent after the season. Save face move, F. Awful deadline.
Yeah, they needed to do something. They had, if they were going to sell and bring in, because their farm system's decimated as well. Mm-hmm. Rejuvenate your farm system for because their players getting a little older.
Yeah.
Like Rizzo and all that. I mean, those years they're declining, so they need to look at fresh faces, and they chose not to.
Blue Jays added DeYoung as a replacement to Bichette. And then Jordan Hicks, I forgot to talk. I don't know why they were 2 separate trades. They should have just been together. Both coming from the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. Birds to Birds. Thought that was kind of funny. And also Cardinal Bird to Orioles. A C+, I guess. very improving at the margins. Blue Jays are a pretty solid team. Bichette being injured really hurts him because DeYoung is not a replacement to the All-Star Bo Bichette. Probably, I don't know, Guerrero's obviously they're probably, universal favorite up in Toronto, but Bichette's got to be a close two. And then the Rays dad, they added Savali, who is having a good year. Rumored to put Margot on the market at the last minute. I think, they optioned Taj Bradley, who's a big prospect for them. I thought that was going to be, they're going to offer him a package to somebody. I still trying to learn their catcher, because they could have got catching, especially even from the Cubs, get Tucker Barnhart.
Yeah.
I got to go with like a D. I know Savali's good, but like it does not feel the Glasnow McClanahan good to me. I still, just like the Orioles, think they'll be a playoff team. I know it's going to win through all five, Dad, but there wasn't much to talk about. What did I miss?
The only thing that I think the winners is, the Orioles, with the Flaherty acquisition. Again, the Orioles needed some left-handed pitching, relief pitching.
Jordan Montgomery, maybe.
They failed to boost their bullpen. They have a serious problem with the 5th, 6th, and 7th innings. That's when teams can attack them. The guy they got from Oakland, Fujinami, he's pitched once. Again, he throws hard, but I think he's hittable. So that was their addition up until 5 minutes before the deadline. They could have done more, but again, what they did was very good, but they could have done more. They really needed to boost the bullpen, and they did not. Similar to the Cubs and other people, the bullpen pieces were out there, and I'm not sure why there wasn't more movement of relief pitchers.
With you, I think just looking, I guess getting a little ahead of myself, I think there's two easy playoff teams that come out of this. Could there be three? Probably. Could there be four? We'll see. We know that one is coming out of the Central at this point.
Has
to be. The Twins are one game above 500, and
didn't do much to improve themselves.
Didn't do any. Yeah, so we'll get to them. And we know that two teams are coming out of the West. Let's just say the names: Orioles, Rays, Astros, Rangers, probably the Twins, and then that last spot is where, just like kind of what we did with the NL, like that'll be the race and the toss-up. Is do the Mariners get hot? Do the Angels get hot? Blue Jays, Yankees or Red Sox. So I think that'll be something to look forward to at the end as we close our podcast with that sixth and final wild card prediction. But I think those five teams are pretty much locked. Dad, do we move on to the Central?
Yes. Not a whole lot of news there either.
I think the White Sox are the Mets of the AL in terms of, not in terms of payroll. They did have a high payroll, but in terms of trading.
But this is the second year in a row they faltered.
Yeah, they're a bad team. They pretty much got rid of anyone that was a free agent at the end of the year. I think Clevenger has an option. They kept Bummer. They got Luis Patino.
Yeah, that's kind of
little inside joke there. Getting rid of Jake Berger was a shock to me. Yeah. I thought they would get rid of Elvis Andrus. Maybe no one wanted him.
He's a little old.
I know he is. I thought Yasmani Grandal, who's a free agent, would get something picked up.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of movement of catchers, by the way.
Which I thought there would be 3 days ago. I said there'd be movement of catchers. There was not. Nobody got Eloy Jimenez, so
they could have done more.
They could have done more, for sure. When you admit defeat, I don't know what they brought back in. Hopefully some good pieces for all their pitching. They do have some catchers coming up because they traded a lot for catchers.
Yeah. 2 very good ones.
This feels, I'll say, I know I probably should say F because they didn't have, as my opinion, as high expectations as maybe the Mets or the Cardinals, so I'll say a D.
They could have got a lot for Cease.
They could have got a lot for Cease. Yeah. I really thought once Berger moved, they're going to trade more of their long-term pieces. Don't know why Jake Berger got moved openly. Still think that could be the underrated trade of the deadline.
Yeah.
The Guardians felt like a seller. They got rid of Savali. They got Syndergaard, I know, but they gave up Ahmed Rosario for him, and then they trade Josh Bell, which I did call, just for the wrong team. They didn't improve their team at all, in my opinion.
Right, and they're half game out.
So this is a big loss. I would say a D as well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta, when the moment is there, you gotta seek it and then move from there. They had an opportunity to add, and their biggest need is offense. They did zip.
Yeah.
I just don't understand their philosophy.
They just had no offense this year.
So many teams were afraid of, I guess, making a mistake in their trades, so they didn't make any movement.
I mean,
Which is a shame. I thought there was less trades this year than ever before.
I think less impactful trades. I'm
Yeah.
sure I don't know about numbers, but the Twins just swapped Lopez for Floro, and that is it. There's a lot of talk out of that camp, and no follow up. In essence, another D, because you didn't do anything to improve your team.
Yeah.
I think you'll still win the Central because everyone. It's like hot potato. The AL Central doesn't want it. You take it. I don't want it. Just it is possible, albeit even likely, that the team that comes out of the Central has a losing record come September 30th.
Which would be horrible.
Yeah, it's awful for baseball.
Yeah.
Tigers' dad got rid of Lorenzen, tried to trade Erod, totally mismanaged that situation. Didn't trade really anyone else.
But if you want to stay on the East Coast, he could have stayed on the East Coast.
I just, you should have talked to your team. Hey, you thinking about trading me? Remember how I have 10 team no trade clauses?
Yeah.
Well, I'm serious about those teams, and
They could have got a heck of a package.
I completely agree. Obviously, Scope's no longer on that team. He went into obscurity really quick. F. I really think this team that failed to rebuild had an opportunity to get quality prospects back, missed that opportunity. Rodriguez is probably going to opt out of his contract anyways. You'll get nothing for him. It was a failure of a year.
I'm with you 100%. They could have started working on that a couple of weeks ago and found a suitable team for him to be moved to, and probably got 2 or 3 prospects. But again, that GM is new, and he didn't do very well his first trading deadline.
The Royals, I'll give a D. They got rid of Nicky Lopez when he had a ton of team control. They got rid of some pitching. They completely decimated their bullpen. Greinke will probably retire at the end of this year. Nobody calls about Jordan Lyles or Keller, Bubik. I think will lose more games than the Oakland Athletics because at least Oakland has some youth that's talented. And I don't know anymore about Bobby Witt. He strikes out a ton. There's not a high average anymore. I know he's a big prospect, and anything could happen with a turnaround pick. The whole Central is sinking. I know everyone talks about realignment because you take any team truly in the AL East, they dominate the AL Central.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much anyone in the AL West outside the Athletics could also dominate. I don't know. The Twins, I think, will be the playoff team, but do not earn it. And I don't think have the offense. I think they have a negative run differential as a first-place team.
That's not good.
They do not. I apologize, but it's not a high positive run differential.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't name their stars, to tell you the truth.
They're injured all the time. So that's the Byron Buxton.
Yeah.
That's the Carlos Correa, the Joey Gallos, Christian Vasquez's, Max Kepler's, but not a lot of health. Then let's close with the AL West.
Okay.
The Astros added 2 reunions. It feels like a former Astros team at this point.
Yeah.
Justin Verlander, Kendall Graveman.
Yeah.
They gave up, I'd say a lot. All top prospects in their own organization. Healthy, if Verlander stays healthy. A cheap addition, basically what they were paying him last year.
But a great leader.
Yeah.
And he
knows people, knows Dusty. Their offense, Alvarez and Altuve have returned to the lineup. McCormick is hitting. Abreu is finally starting to hit a few home runs. They're getting hot at the right time.
And they're getting healthy.
They're getting healthy. They put a lot of pressure on the Rangers this deadline to do the moves. They have, the same record, really. They both have 60 wins. They obviously are know they're going to make the playoffs, and that bullpen, Montero, Abreu, Neris, Stanek, Presley, Graveman, scary. Just scary. Valdez, Verlander, Christian Javier, Urquidy, Brown, like...
That's notable.
Yeah, and any rookie of theirs can catch fire. Forrest Whitley is someone I thought would get traded. He's like a really tall starter that has never found his fire, basically, and he could totally get hot in September and be a playoff guy.
I agree.
We don't even know.
I agree. I think they're starting to get their swagger back. You know,
and I would go B+ because there weren't offensive moves made.
There were key pieces that solidifies that pitching staff that really makes them, they're going to win a lot of games, 3-2, 4-3, that kind of stuff. So, they're in great shape. And they've been to the playoffs. If
we look at podiums and like who wins first, second, third place, I would give the Astros third place at this deadline because they made the necessary moves. Not a lot, but they're competing for the playoffs, not for so much the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Mariners, Dad.
They don't know where they're
going.
Let's
give up our closer. I mean, this is really out of the Brewers' playbook.
They had, at the beginning of the year, people were talking about them as a playoff team, but
not anymore.
No,
they were shopping Teoscar and Ty France at one point today. Yeah. They got a lot of injuries. Colton Wong got DFA'd in the middle of the deadline. A lot of weird to do that in the middle of the deadline when you don't add anyone.
Right. No need to.
F. I'm going to say the Mariners just had a terrible deadline and didn't improve their team whatsoever. They felt like a seller and never had a buyer.
Yeah. And they, right now, I think, are 500, just a little bit above. And I'm just thinking...
They could, 4 games above 500, actually.
Yeah, they could have added.
Yeah.
But they chose not to.
Yeah.
Weird.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Let's talk about Rangers or Angels. They both added a lot. Let's go A's real quick then. Let's just they sold off a few pieces. There wasn't much to sell. It's like if you go to Goodwill after a yard sale. You're not really donating that much. Stuff still has price tags on it.
Very good. That's a good one.
Thank you.
Kudos for that.
Thank you. They won't get the overall top pick. I think that's Kansas City, and I think it's Oakland. But by far, they're the 2 worst teams in baseball. They still have some talent on their team, and any of those young guys can have a hot next 60 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam Moll's gone. Big deal. Big deal. Big deal. Jace Peterson's gone again. Big deal.
They could have sold more as well.
Yeah, I don't think they would have got much for like Paul Blackburn or
I agree.
Brent Rooker.
Yeah.
Rangers or Angels, Dad? Either direction I can talk a lot
Let's
about.
go Angels.
So, in a way, the reason we are having less fun is because of the Angels. They decided to keep Shohei Ohtani and not make a crazy blockbuster because just like dominoes, if Tampa Bay Rays got Shohei Ohtani, what else will the AL East do? There's going to be residual impact trades that catch up to whoever gets Ohtani. And the fact that the Angels kept him, the Rangers and the Astros are the ones that had to go act to make sure they solidified their playoff spot. Adding Crone, as a reunion, there was big reunions this deadline. I normally call that in free agent, predictions, and I'm wrong. So I'll just switch that philosophy. Grichuk also was drafted by the Angels, so in a weird way, that's a reunion. Technically added Mike Moustakas and Eddie Escobar earlier in the year. Getting Lucas Giolito, I think...
That was big.
You could obviously argue for Verlander or Scherzer being the biggest name pitching-wise, but I think in terms of talent, Lucas Giolito was the best one traded at this.
And came with Lopez.
And obviously came with Ronaldo Lopez. So they improved their bullpen, they improved their offense, they improved their pitching.
Their depth.
Their whole team got improved. So I would have to say that, I don't know, maybe I kicked the Astros out. The Angels did really good too. We'll see. They might be a podium person as well.
And I think Trout comes back from injury sometimes in August because he got hurt.
I think so.
Him coming back is another spark.
Drury's supposed to come back too.
Yeah, so there you go.
The Rangers, our last team we're talking about, they were my original second place team just because they added Scherzer when you already have an injured Met of DeGrom. You add Jordan Montgomery, you add Chapman, you add Austin Hedges.
Don't forget Stratton, your lawyer friend.
Oh, sorry, right, Chris Stratton. Um,
2 catchers.
you have a need, and they go get him. Like, I think that's extremely telling of a good organization that
They want to win.
Yeah, they want to win. I'm impressed. Obviously, Miami takes the gold for me. I was very impressed with their whole deadline approach because it's new and refreshing, and they tried. I'm going to kick out the Astros. I will go Angels 3rd place, Rangers 2nd place, Miami 1st place for the best moves at the deadline. I really did like the Rangers. I thought they would be a really great team in 2024 since they're hosting the All-Star game. I love that they kind of got hot a year early.
I like what they added to their rotation.
Yeah, Scherzer and Montgomery. I mean,
Yeah.
they have Scherzer, Perez, Gray, Montgomery, Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. They didn't. A lot of these teams, when they get injuries, they just give up for the year. They lose DeGrom and Odorizzi. And you know what? They're like, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's keep getting people.
And they didn't give up a lot for those guys that they received,
And Luis Angel Acuna, great prospect, probably will hit the show, just like his brother. When your infield is Semien, Seager, and Young,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have a hole for.
Yeah.
I mean, most of their people that they traded for Montgomery or Scherzer or even I think Hedges were all infielders. I'm sure there's some pitchers mixed in there too, but there's really not any holes for the next decade in Texas up in the infield. So
The pennant race between them and the Astros will be the best pennant race.
I think so too. I think it'll be really fun. I think if there's any more Rangers Astros games left, they should be on national TV.
I think it's going to be neck and neck.
Neck and neck. Dad, I'm going to write down some of my predictions.
I thought you were going to write down neck and neck.
I'm not going to write down neck and neck for some weird reason. I don't know why I would not write that down. Like I said, I don't care who wins like certain divisions, anything like that. Give me your 6.
Ready?
Sure.
Orioles, Blue Jays, Rangers, Astros, Minnesota, Tampa Bay.
Did you give me 6 or 7? I felt like it was 7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
Orioles, Blue Jays, Rangers, Astros, Minnesota, Tampa Bay.
So you have 3 coming out the East,
Right.
and just the Twins.
And then Rangers and Astros.
So Angels fail to make it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had them and I crossed them out just because I don't think they have enough.
I think I was reading your list, and that's why I thought
It's
I
okay.
saw 7.
Yeah.
I have a lot of those.
Orioles in the playoffs is good for baseball.
Yeah. Rays Twins, like I said, Rays Twins, Astros, Orioles, Rangers, easy 5, and then it becomes who is that sleeper pick? Is it a Yankee? Is it a Red Sox? Is it a Blue Jay? Is it an Angel? It's not a Mariner. It's not a Guardian. I will go ahead and take the risk of taking the Angels. I don't think they'll go far, but I think the world and baseball, fans are watching baseball. We need to see Ohtani in the playoffs.
And Trout.
Yeah. Trout's been in the playoffs, but it was only for a wild card series.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, he's never won a playoff game.
Yeah. And he's in his young 30s now. He's got to be now or never.
There's also listen to my kind of crazy, fun belief. So, I think that the Angels get the last wild card spot, or I'm sure you thought that with the Blue Jays too, probably.
Yep.
The Rays, I think, will win the East. It could be the Orioles, who in this situation, who cares? Same with the Astros or Rangers. I think Rays and Astros are the 2 top teams, only by a game or 2. 4 and 5, the Orioles and Rangers have to play each other as a wild card game. Awesome game. The Angels, so this is where strategy kind of comes in, that the lowest ranked wild card team gets to face the Twins. Angels, Twins. Someone has to win a playoff series. Neither has for 20 years or something like that. Yeah. It's been insane how long these teams have not won a playoff series.
Yeah.
And it'll be, if that is the matchup, I like the Angels. I really like any team to go up against the Twins. Orioles and Rangers, that is youth versus proven talent, fun.
Yeah.
If you're the Orioles, try to get the number 1 seed, try to win the East. Same with the Rangers or Astros. I like a battle of Texas. I don't know how it'll work out, but I like Astros and Rangers. as my championship series.
And what a fun
Yeah.
series that would be.
They're just rock'em sock'em
Yeah.
type of thing. I think the Braves or even the Dodgers. I think the AL just beats each other up in the playoffs, and I think the Braves take it.
Yeah.
But
You're right. I mean, less energy being used.
Yeah.
By the time they get the World Series, I'm gonna be just tuckered out.
there's some sweeps in the NL, and again, all predictions in our minds right now. But I think there's some true 5-game, 7-game series that happen in the AL. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of depth they had in starting rotations.
It'll be fun to watch the dominance rise of these next couple of teams. If Verlander or Scherzer, as they are now facing each other, no longer on the same team, who that'll be like? Can you imagine a Game 1 ALCS Justin Verlander versus Max Scherzer?
That's pretty good.
I mean, sells tickets.
Yeah.
It sells tickets.
Yeah.
But if either one of them gets injured during this season, that team becomes a wild card team with the injury, and the team that doesn't get injured becomes obviously the winner of the West.
Yeah.
Dad, playoff deadline was great. We had a lot of fun. We played some wiffle ball, played some our version, I guess, of wiffle ball, blitz wiffle. Thank you all for watching. We had a lot of positive responses to a very hot and sarcastic video of a couple days ago. I have a draft idea that I'll be telling my dad off camera because I find August baseball very boring. And then September and October, we may not have any videos at all because I'm getting married. So we'll try to have a few more content videos, maybe a prediction at late September if we can get it in, and then probably a playoff recap once I get back from my honeymoon.
Yeah.
So thank you for watching this video. I'm always going to push like the video, send us a comment, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on all our social media. We're at Pastime Podcast _ on Twitter and Instagram. And we are the Father and Son Pastime Podcast on Facebook.
Thanks for watching.
Have a great rest of your season. If your team made a try today, great. Support them. Go to the ballpark. If they are giving up, better luck next year. Sell your tickets for whatever they can go for.